Hello, friends, and welcome to Pediatric Flow. I'm Jolene, a doctoral-prepared, dual board-certified pediatric nurse practitioner, and I'm so glad you're here today. Today, as we move into the Christmas season, I want to talk about the parts of this work that many of us carry quietly, the emotional realities we don't often say out loud. I know what it is to care for patients whose lives are held in the balance, and I know many of you know this as well. To stand in rooms where time feels different, where every single breath is counted, where hope and fear exist side by side. And in those rooms, there is also honor. The honor of being trusted at the edge of life, of bearing witness when a family cannot do this alone, of holding space when words fall away and presence becomes the only language that matters. To be there as someone takes their final breaths is not routine. It is not clinical. It is sacred. It is the quiet privilege of ensuring no one passes alone, that dignity is preserved, that suffering is eased, and that love is felt even in the moment of goodbye. This work we do carries grief, but it also carries reverence. Because to walk with someone as they leave this world is one of the deepest forms of care we can offer. I know what it is, and I know many of you know, to be present when medicine can no longer change the outcome, when the work becomes less about interventions and more about presence. To stand with families in those moments, to stay when the room grows quiet, and to bear witness to a final breath. Not as observers, but as steady, compassionate presence. We don't just care for patients in those moments. We care for families. We hold space for grief, love, and loss, often in silence. But those moments stay with us. They live in our bodies, in our memories, and in our hearts. They shape who we are as providers and as human beings. And they are rarely spoken about. There is a unique weight when there's pediatric loss. This work that we do and loss is hard in any form. But caring for children in these moments carries a different kind of weight. When life is just beginning, loss feels especially unfair because the contrast is sharper. The questions are heavier. We stand there knowing how much was still ahead. First days, first steps, futures that were imagined and suddenly altered. And as providers, we carry that too. We hold the grief of families who never expected to be here. We absorb the heartbreak of a life interrupted far too soon. And we do our best to remain steady in moments that feel anything but fair. This is a weight unique to pediatric care. and it shapes us in ways that are hard to explain to anyone who's never lived it. And yet, there is another side to this work. It holds something else. There are the patients who do get better. The moments that feel like light breaking through the weight we carry. The child with a traumatic brain injury. The bleed that once left so much uncertainty. Days of watching, waiting, hoping, and then slowly things begin to change. The exam improves, the swelling stabilizes, small signs of progress appear where once fear had lived. The squeeze of a hand, eyes opening, a purposeful movement. And there are others. The child struggling to breathe, in respiratory failure, with exhaustion written across their little bodies. The moment when support becomes necessary, and when we place a breathing tube, not because we want to, but because it is the bridge they need to survive. Days of ventilatory support, careful adjustments, watching the chest rise and fall, and waiting for the lungs to heal. And then, slowly, the support decreases. The settings come down. Breaths become stronger on their own. Until one day, the tube is removed, and breathing, once so fragile, is theirs again. These moments carry their own kind of awe. They remind us that recovery can follow fear, that the body can heal, and that our presence through the hardest moments matters. And in those moments, the room feels different. Hope returns, carefully, quietly, but undeniably present. Parents breathe again, and the future feels possible once again. These moments don't erase the losses that we witness. They don't undo the pain, but they remind us why we stay, why we continue to show up time and time again. There is a paradox of bedside care, where we hold grief and hope in the same two hands, moving between loss and recovery, and sometimes within the same shift. We learn to carry both because we have to. And over time, this work shapes us, not just as clinicians, but as human beings. As I think about this, I wrote and rewrote this episode multiple times because it didn't feel right. I knew what I wanted to say, but I needed it to feel the emotion that we feel as providers. I needed the words to carry the weight of what we live. I wanted those who stood in these rooms, those who have witnessed final breaths, those who have carried families through moments that change you, to know that I see you, I understand you, and I know how important this work is, and I know how deeply it stays with you. This is why Pediatric Flow was created, to give a voice to all of us in healthcare from someone who lives this reality with you each and every day, so that we can feel heard, so that we know and everyone else knows what we carry and that it's acknowledged. And that's how we begin to affect change. So if you are holding this today, and if this moment feels heavy right now, know this. This is how we carry this work. But you do not carry it alone. You carry it alongside your colleagues, nurses, physicians, advanced practice providers, respiratory therapists, pharmacists, technicians, each of us holding a piece of the weight. There is support in the people beside you, in the quiet understanding of those who know these rooms too, in the shared language of care that doesn't need explanation. Reach for one another, speak when you can, and rest when you need to, because this work was never meant to be carried in isolation. And as we move through the Christmas season, many will continue to show up, standing with families in moments of heartbreak and in moments of healing, holding hands, offering comfort, and carrying stories that will stay with them long after the holidays pass. If this work has felt heavy, know this: what you carry matters. What you give matters. And you are not alone. I want to thank you for continuing to show up with courage, compassion, and heart. And always remember, the world needs your compassion, your courage, and your light. And as always, until next time, keep shining.